Hello, my name is Philip and today I'm going to be guiding you through what will mainly be a stretching program, just a simple stretching program. There will be a warm-up section at the beginning involving some squats, some lunges, sort of just gentle mobility, rolling your shoulders, etc. All you'll need is a mat, a comfortable surface to lie on, a mat, a carpet, a rug, possibly a cushion for your head when we're lying on our back or on our side for some of these stretches. You'll need to be concentrating, that's a third requirement, because I will be transitioning every 30 seconds, so you'll need trying to keep up with me, keep the flow going. And one final thing that you might need is something to hold onto. I'm going to be using the wall for one of the stretches. In standing, I will ask you to stand on one leg every now and again, so you might benefit from having a chair or something stable for you to support yourself with. That is it. When you're ready, let's get started. Right, warm up. First warm up movement, a squat. Basic squat, ankle, hip, knee mobility, warming them up, getting the blood circulating. So feet and knees hip width apart. Arms by your side, so a nice tall posture. Bend, hinge and float. Bend your knees, hinge at your hips, float your arms forwards. Standing tall, squeeze your shoulder blades together without leaning backwards. Try not to do this where you're going into extension. And repeating, we're just doing 5. So next one, exactly the same, all 5 are the same. So bend your knees, hinge your hip, float your arms. Palms facing forwards or even outwardly, squeezing. And then I'm going to stand sideways on with the next 3. You'll see the profile of my spine a bit better, so I'm keeping it as straight as I can, the curve soft. And I'm using a double breath breathing pattern. Don't worry about that. If you find you're breathing differently to me, that's fine. Just breathe slowly, breathe deeply, and coordinate your breathing with the movement. Right, I have lost count. Is this 4 or 5? I'm not sure. I think it's 5. Right, now relax your arms, separate your feet a little bit wider, roll your shoulders. So we'll just get the blood circulating sort of more in your upper body. So nice big roll in action. Finish with the rolling. Right, next I want to sway, just really easy swaying. Move your pelvis from side to side. Your spine will be moving, your legs will be moving, but the main structure as such that's moving is your pelvis. Relatively speaking, your shoulders and your head are staying still. So just mobility, warming up. Right, now change the sway to rotation. With your feet a little bit wider, we're going to rotate the spine. Twisting, so I'm going to my left, it might be your right if you're doing a mirror image. Twisting and wrapping your hands around your shoulders. Aim for 90-degree twist from your start position. And then come back to the centre, back to 0, and then 90 degrees in the opposite direction. So just twist with length, always standing tall. Right, that's 4, I think. The next 4 movements, I'd like you to pivot on the ball. In this case, it will be your left foot if you're pivoting to your right. And changing. And keep your legs straight. As you pivot, don't bend your knees. So it's 2 more. So still mobilising. Still warming up. That's the main focus of these sort of first 5 to 10 minutes. Right, the next 4, squatting during the transition and lifting your hands to about shoulder height. You're still twisting, you're still pivoting. 3 more. So combining the squat that you did earlier with rotation and pivoting. Last one. And then squat back to the centre, or twist back to the centre in the squat position, standing up, hands by your side. Right, lunges next. Fantastic movement, just for general sort of warming up, mobility, strengthening, but we're using it as for a warm-up movement. Step your feet as far apart, forwards and backwards as you're comfortable with. Spine is vertically aligned, your feet are flat, your toes are pointing forwards, as is your pelvis. Straight into the lunge, we're going to do 5. First 2, lift your back heel, bend both knees to lower down, keeping your spine vertically aligned as opposed to it leaning forwards and going to extension. Pausing for a breath in, and then straighten your legs, heel back down, check your alignment. Same again, lift, bend, lower, and hopefully you can notice I'm lowering down rather than lunging forward, so the back knee must bend in order for that to happen. Straighten, return. Right, the next 3 will add in rotation. Lift your heel and twist. So a bit of twisting, mobility for the spine, a bit more twisting, we've already done twisting. And then return. Twist back, legs back down, pelvis square on. Ooh, nearly fell over there. So lift, bend, twist. You might benefit from holding a chair at this point. For example, I've got my hands on an imaginary chair there and returning. And again, so use any props, any aids that help you. Right, now I'm going to turn around. We've done the 5 movements. Try and have your feet the same distance apart. I've got sort of a mat where there is a foot impression, so I can see how far my feet work. So it's the opposite leg is forwards, same alignment, pelvis square on, feet pointing forwards. First 2 movements, lift, bend without twisting. I know I'm turning my head, but that's only so you can hear me more effectively or clearer. Straighten, heel back down, legs straight. So if you've got a chair, if you want to hold on, I'm holding on to something here, you can do, absolutely fine. If it helps your alignment. Right, the next 3, adding in rotation. Lift your heel, bend and twist. Maybe you wrap your hands around your body, but you keep your ribs soft, shoulders open, chin tucked in. So 2 more. Lifting, lengthening, twisting. Last one. That's the 5 lunges. Excellent, both sides. All right, one more sort of warm-up, really good movement. A squat, but with legs wide, feet wide apart. So as wide as you're comfortable with, so I'll call it a sumo squat. Arms in a Cossack position. Check your toes are lined up. Spine is vertically aligned. Bend as low as you are comfortable with. It might be a tiny bend, it might be a little bit deeper as I've done here. Some of you might go lower, but only as low as you can go if it's comfortable and your spine is vertically aligned, you're not leaning forwards. When you stand, when you straighten your legs, a chest stretch, active chest stretch, squeezing your shoulder blades together, palms facing down and repeating. Arms back to Cossack, bending your knees. Standing, opening. So I am being quite vocal with my breathing, which is what I tend to do anyway when I'm teaching a class. So I'm going in through the nose, out through the mouth, but it's what suits you, a depth, a speed, and however you breathe. Make sure you're comfortable with it. Right, these next 2, palms facing up to the ceiling. And that allows for a greater degree of rotation at the shoulder joint, and therefore we get a little bit more opening, a bit more of an active chest stretch. Last one. Stay in standing with your feet wide, legs straight, hands by your side, just hanging down in line with the spine, ribs still soft. Shrug your shoulders, just do a little bit more with the upper body. Shrug, release until your head to one side, but keep your chin tucked in. Head back, shoulders high again. And now release the shrug, tilt in the opposite direction. And I'm going to do 2 more ways tilting your head. So you're back to the side you began with. Last one where you're tilting your head, but I still want you to shrug. Once you've brought your head back to the centre, and you're going to release the shoulders this time very quickly. When you breathe out, head stays still, breathing out quickly, just let the arms and shoulders drop down. Excellent. Right, legs back close together, and just one more time, just doing 5 shoulder rolls before we start the stretching. 5. Right, the first stretch we're going to do is a calf stretch. That's the sort of fleshy muscle at the back of your lower leg, sort of the biggest muscle in the lower leg region. I'm going to use a wall. You could have a chair, a mantelpiece, any piece of furniture, whatever you want to use. You don't have to use anything at all, but I'm using a wall. It just helps the alignment, I find. So I'm going to put my hands on the wall, but you don't have to, it's what suits you. Front knee is bent, back leg is straight. And that's the leg you're stretching, your back leg. Pushing your heel into the floor, and really important here is that your pelvis and your feet are all facing in the same direction. So I'm using the wall to ensure good alignment. It might look like I'm pushing the wall, but I'm not. There's hardly any pressure here with my hands. Just there for a guide more than anything else. Right, we're going to do this twice. So you can come out of the stretch by straightening your front leg and lifting your back heel, which is in effect contracting your calf muscles. You're doing the opposite of stretching. And then push back down again. Push your heel back into the floor. Bend your front knee again. Check in. I just moved my front foot a bit further forwards then because it was a bit more comfortable for me, and now my knee's above my ankle, which is where I'd like it to be, rather than being like this where it's my ankle is my side of my knee. Holding, breathing, another 10 seconds. Focus is on lengthening your heel, keeping your pelvis square on. Quite often with this stretch, the pelvis will twist towards the leg you're stretching. That reduces the effectiveness. And then coming out of the stretch and changing. Same distance with your legs. I'm just moving my mat there a little bit. So same distance apart, but opposite leg forwards. Knee above ankle, back leg straight, pushing your heel into the floor to stretch your calf muscle. Shoulders, pelvis, feet, toes, square on, pointing forwards. Breathe in. Breathing helps stretching tremendously. You're going to be more relaxed, muscles more receptive to being stretched. Straighten your front leg. That will release the stretch. Lift your heel. That will completely release the stretch because it's contracting the calf, as I said before. And then heel back down and repeating the stretch. Maybe you can move your front foot further forwards because the tension in the muscles released, but not at the expense of the position of your pelvis. Keep it square on. Shoulders relaxed. Another 10 seconds. Abdominal breathing, I've already sort of hinted at this, but if you can breathe abdominally, that would be beneficial. And then coming out of the stretch. Right, the second stretch we're going to do in standing is hamstring, the back of your thigh. I'll go sideways on to start with, so you could have a chair or you could use a wall. You could use nothing. I'm not going to use anything. So bend your one leg, or step one leg forwards about 30 centimetres, or sort of 12 inches a foot. One leg steps forwards. Your thighs are parallel, and it's as if you're sitting down on a chair. You're sticking your bottom out, your chest is forward. Don't do this where you're in flexion. And then you're going to come out of the stretch just by straightening your legs, and this time bending your front knee. So you're putting a bit of pressure on your front knee, and then coming back into the stretch position. Front leg straight, bend your back knee, your body lowers down, and you hinge forwards. I'm saying hinge here rather than flexing. If you flex your spine, the stretch won't be as effective. So bottom out, that's tilting your pelvis forwards. Square on with your pelvis, much better stretch if you can. Last few seconds. And then coming back up. Changing. I will face the other way. So Opposite leg forwards, the same distance. You stand tall initially, check your alignment, bend your back knee, so just the back knee that bends, hinge forwards. Right, I'm doing this in standing. You could do this in a sitting position, sitting on the edge of a chair. Or we will be doing this stretch, hamstring stretch later, lying on our backs. So I should have said this earlier, but please don't do anything that doesn't suit you. You might not know until you try sometimes, but err on the side of caution if in doubt. Right, and then we're going to come back up, straighten, bend your front knee, and then return to the stretch position. Both legs are straight initially. Bend your back knee, fold, hinge forwards. Spine is staying straight. That's what a hinge means really when you are putting it into practice. Front leg is straight, foot is flat, or you could have your foot flexed. If you're familiar with this, some of you might be flexing your foot at this point. And then coming back up and coming out of the position. So we stretch the calf and the hamstrings, the two main muscle groups at the back of your leg. Right, next we are going to stretch the front of your thigh. Hold your foot, one foot with your hand. These are hip flexor, quadricep muscle groups. I have got the luxury here of being able to hold onto a beam if I feel a little bit wobbly. So here you might want to hold onto a chair. But front of thigh, anywhere between your hip and your knee. Pull your leg as far as you can backwards. Try not to arch your back as you're doing this. Keep your rib cage soft. Stand tall with 3 soft curves. Right, release your foot, and you can either place your foot down if you want to, or what I'm going to do here is lift, bring your knee in towards you. So a little bit of balance here. And now repeating the same stretch again, same leg. Legs as close together as you can, pulling your leg backwards, standing tall, looking straight ahead. I'm just going to go sideways on and illustrate what I don't want you to do, which is arching your back, where you're extending the spine and your leg pulls back much further, but it's not actually stretching the leg anymore. So if I soften my spine, my leg moves forward slightly. So thighs are quite close together, depending on flexibility, that is. Releasing, changing, so opposite leg, so standing on the leg that you were stretching. Hold your foot with your hand. You could use a band or a towel if you can't reach your hand. Standing tall. If you need to, hold onto a wall. I'm doing it here. Ceiling, beam, chair, anything. Right, we're coming to the last few seconds for this first stretch on this leg. So if you want to place your foot down in between, you can, or keep your foot away from the floor and bring your leg in towards you. Just briefly. And then leg back down, holding your foot again, pulling your leg backwards, legs close together. So we don't want the spine to arch, which I illustrated before when I stood sideways on, and we don't want the legs to be pulled out to the side ideally. Closer it is to the other leg, the better. Knee pointing down as much as you can. Tall. Breathe in, abdominal or thoracic. And that is about 30 seconds, maybe it's a few seconds more, won't do any harm. And releasing, leg down onto the floor, foot on the floor. Right, we're going to come down onto the mat now into a kneeling position for the next stretch. If kneeling doesn't suit you, you can turn onto your back and bring one knee to your chest. I'm going to do a lunge stretch now. So it's stretching the hip flexors again, like we did in standing, but it's more focused on the hip flexors rather than quadriceps, some of which are interchangeable, but we won't go into that now. So feet and knees, legs in line with respective hip joints, lunge forwards into position. Keep your ribcage soft. We're going to do this stretch twice, and we'll intersperse it with a hamstring stretch. So we've held it nearly for 30 seconds. So if you come out of the position that you are in, and now to stretch the hamstrings of your front leg straight, foot pulled in, standing, kneeling tall, I should say. Maybe you lean forwards. I don't need to lean forwards in order to feel this stretch. I've got a bit of tightness there, I can feel it now. If I tilt my pelvis forwards, I feel it even more. So backwards with the pelvis is rounding your spine, forwards with the pelvis is increasing the curve in your lower back. Right, now return to the hip flexor stretch where you are bending your front knee as much as you can comfortably. Your back leg is straightening relatively, that is, it won't be perfectly straight, and we'll add in rotation this time, twisting towards your leading leg. Shoulders stay down, ribcage soft, chin tucked in, just the normal sort of good postural alignment sort of points I would make. So front knee bend, back leg is, you're opening up the front of your back hip. Return back to the centre, straighten your front leg, flex your foot if comfortable. If it's not, keep your foot flat down. Stand tall, that might be enough. Or, I'm saying stand tall, kneel tall. Tilt your pelvis forwards if you're able to. It's an awkward movement to do in this position, but it will make a big difference to the pull at the back of your thigh. 5 more seconds. And then changing. So it's opposite leg forwards. I'll turn around just so that you can see me, or I can see things more easily. So bend your front knee, back leg straightens a little, front knee bends a little. You're lunging, you're opening up the hip, you're keeping your pelvis square on. And then this is an easy transition, so from the front of the back leg, you transition to stretch the back of your front leg. So front leg is straight, leg is in line, toes are pointing up to the ceiling. Ten more seconds. Actually slightly less than 10 because there's a transition time. Right, now the transition to repeating the front of thigh stretch. So bend your front knee again, adding in rotation, so it's rotation of your spine, spinal rotation, wrapping your hands to facilitate that rotation, perhaps and to also open up your shoulders slightly on one side. Hold in, breathe in. So if you breathe slowly, even if you struggle with deep breathing, breathe slowly, depth will come eventually. And then twist back and repeat the hamstring stretch. I'm saying hamstring, it might be the calf muscle where you feel it a little here. So foot flexed if you can, if you can't, have your foot down. Tall, definitely tall to begin with. Tilt your pelvis forwards. For some of you, you might be able to lean forwards. I can't lean forwards without going into flexion here. There's enough of a stretch here for me when the spine is vertically aligned and my pelvis is tilted forwards, not backwards. And then bring your legs back together. Right, I'd just like to sit back towards your heels now for about 10 seconds whilst I change the angle of my camera because we're going to be coming down onto the floor. So if you can just sit back, reach out with your arms. Thank you for your patience. Was that 10 seconds? Was it less? Was it more? Who knows? Right, we're going to start in side lying. We're going to do 2 stretches in side lying. I'm going to use my arm as a cushion. You might prefer to use a cushion as a cushion or a combination of. So if you've got any cushions, pillows, if it makes it more comfortable, use them. I would encourage that. Don't do what I'm doing necessarily. If it's better for you, use something else. I'm going to bend my arm as well. Right, I'm going to stretch front of thigh again for the 3rd time. We've done it in 2 different positions. This is the 3rd position we've done this in. So hold your foot with your hand, pull your leg backwards. So it's the equivalent to the standing hip flexor quadriceps stretch that we did earlier. And the reason we're doing it in 3 different positions is A, for variety, but B, if we spend a lot of time sitting, which a lot of us tend to, these muscles tighten up because the legs are flexed forwards. So it's a good stretch to do in different positions due to prolonged sitting or bending, flexing. Right, release your foot, straighten your leg. I think I've got room there. Straighten your leg, slide your leg forwards. So it's an active hamstring stretch. You're just going to hold it for about 15 seconds. Or the transition will be 15. Right, now leg back again, repeating the front of thigh stretch. Pull your leg, and the points I made earlier in standing, try not to arch your back so you're keeping your ribs soft. Spine is in neutral, don't let your head hang down. You're looking straight ahead, you're breathing. Your knee, your foot and your hip are equidistant from the floor. So your leg is more or less parallel. The heel of your foot, your top foot, the leg that you're stretching, is directed towards the centre of your buttock. And then releasing, slide your leg forwards. But this time, when you bring your leg back, just bring it back into a straight line with your spine. And reach your top arm over the top so your arm is also in line with your spine. So you're just lengthening through your fingertips, through your toes. And just trying to stretch, think of stretching the muscles between your rib cage and your pelvis. So it's stretching anywhere on the top side of the body, but particularly the waist region. Return your arm, return your leg. They are the two stretches that I wanted you to do. And we will now change to the opposite side. So turning over, cushions if you're using them, have them ready to hand in position. Check your alignment with your upper body and then straight into the stretch, stretching the front of your thigh, holding your foot, pulling your leg backwards. So I've got my bottom knee bent. You could have it straight, but if it's bent, it provides a bit of sort of extra stability. And I find you can pull the top leg further if you are more grounded. Breathe in slowly, deeply. I'll keep on saying it. It is important. If you breathe, it helps you to relax. The more relaxed you are, the more receptive your soft tissues are to being stretched. Releasing, release your leg, keeping your foot about hip height, slide your leg forwards and hold it there. So how far your leg moves is a reflection of how flexible your hamstrings are. And then return your leg back, bend again, hold your foot again, pull your leg backwards. Breathe in. About halfway, another 15 seconds. Three, 2, 1, release your foot, slide your leg again forwards into hip flexion with your foot about hip height. Hold it there for a few seconds, which you've done. Now return your leg to a straight line with your spine. Reach your arm, your top arm up and over. I tend to straighten my bottom arm in this position, but it's what's comfortable for you. If in doubt, experiment, but they're on the side of caution. Lengthening through fingertips, through toes of your top arm, your top leg. 10 more seconds. Return your arm, return your leg, and turn onto your back. Right, so the next section will be lying on your back. Make sure my mat is square on. Lying on your back, we're doing some hip twist stretches. So we're stretching sort of around the hip region, maybe into the lower back slightly. And then we're doing a hamstring stretch. But we'll start with knees bent, legs together. So feet are touching, knees are touching, arms as wide as you can. Roll your legs to your left, keeping your feet and knees together. Roll slowly, don't let your legs just drop down. And really important with these stretches is the anchor I want to focus on are your shoulder blades. So because you're taking your legs to your left, it's your right shoulder blade. Keep that anchored and your right arm is helping to anchor it. Breathe in. If you're turning your head, turn it in the opposite direction to your legs. Otherwise, keep it in neutral, which means looking straight up. I will not be doing that because I want you to be able to hear me, so I'm going to stay facing this way. Right, legs back to the centre and then over to your right. Therefore, it's your left shoulder blade that you need to keep anchored. You breathe in slowly, deeply, about halfway, or just over, another 10 seconds. And then back to the centre. Right, you're going to go back to your left with your legs, but with your right leg cross. So cross your right leg. Don't have a gap between your legs. and then roll your legs, unless you need to have a gap, that is, roll your legs back to your left. So hip, stretch, spine, bit of twisting. So fantastic sort of benefiting multiple sort of regions of the body, all down the side. Some people might feel it across the shoulder here if you've got tightness there. But hold in, breathe in. And change in, transition. I tend to transition on an out breath. So legs back, cross your legs the other way, roll your legs the other way. So now you've got your left leg on top and your legs are to your right. Arms are wide. Your left shoulder blade is your main anchor here. We don't want to lose that anchor. Last few seconds. And then returning. Right, we're just doing these stretches, we're just doing one of each, but we're doing multiple stretches, a variety of stretches, all stretching the same sort of muscle groups. So next stretch, tabletop position with your leg, your right leg, pull your right leg across with your left hand, your left arm. Just move back a bit, shuffle up. I could pull my leg further here, I could go much further across, but then I'm going to start losing my anchor. So I'm limiting how far I pull to how far I can keep anchored in this instance. All right, that was a good 30 seconds, maybe a few seconds more. Return your leg, release your leg, straighten that leg. The other leg is now in a tabletop, 90-degree position. Your left leg, that is. Your right hand does the pull in, it's sort of the active arm. Your left arm is anchoring, helping to anchor your shoulder in a passive way. It's just not doing a great deal, just resting on the floor. The weight of your arm is anchoring, helping to anchor. And returning. Right, so that was 3 sort of hips sort of stretches. Now if you bring your knees in and just doing a gentle rocking action in and away. I quite like doing this every now and again during the stretches because it helps to realign your legs with your pelvis, your body. Right, finish with that rocking motion. Next stretch, deep hip gluteal buttock stretch. Cross, right ankle above left knee. Lift your foot if you are able to. This is your left foot. Take hold of the back of your left leg. It might be that you can't due to tightness, and it could be various areas of the body, in which case you could hold your right leg as an alternative. Got another 10 seconds. Hold in, breathe in. So stretching, it's the right hip deep in the buttock gluteal region. Release, lower your foot, and then just sway your legs to one side and the other. And then repeat, same stretch, same leg, same combination, still right ankle above left knee with your back of your left thigh supported for some of you. And this time I'll just highlight that I'm going to lift my foot, my left foot, to the height of my right and left knee so that my leg's in tabletop. That tends to be the best position for me anyway, where I can feel the stretch the most intensely. Releasing in 2 seconds. So I didn't make that clear. Releasing, onto, lower down, change. Cross the other way. Left ankle above right knee, so it's the left side that you're stretching. This might be your preferred position, or you might lift, support, in this case, for me, right leg, or it could be your left leg. One hand on your ankle, your right hand, one hand on your knee. And then we're going to release the stretch, but don't uncross your legs. Just release it by placing your foot down onto the floor, swaying your legs once to each side. Bring your legs back, bring your legs in again. And I'm going to make sure that the leg that is not being stretched, it's my left leg that's being stretched, my right leg is in a tabletop position. My foot is at the same height as my knee. Releasing. Release, place your foot down, uncross your legs, knees drawn in, and now swaying. Right, that's it for sort of hip, what I'm going to call these hip twists and that deep gluteal stretch. We're going to do a hamstring stretch again. So one leg, definitely one leg straight, lengthen that leg up to the ceiling with your hands behind, or you could use a towel or a band around your foot. Don't mind. The leg that you're not stretching could be bent, as mine is here, or it could be straight. Personal preference, or it might be due to tightness. If you're very tight in your hamstrings, for most people it tends to be more comfortable if you bend the leg that you're not stretching. I'll do a bit of both. I'll keep bent with the first stretch and I'll straighten it with the second. Right, bend your knee on the leg that you're stretching, pull your leg in and then repeating the same stretch for the second time. Foot flexed, lengthen through the heel of your foot, the base of your spine, keep it flat down. Don't let it lift up as I've done here. It looks like I'm stretching more, I'm not. It's because I've cheated with my body position. Right, I'm going to lengthen my leg for the remaining 5 seconds. Bending, changing, so transition, smooth transition. Lengthen the other leg up to the ceiling. Check your alignment. Legs are in line with hip joints, hands are behind. Or you've got a band around your foot. If there's a bit of tightness in your hamstrings, you might have to have your knee bent. But I'm sure you will have figured that out beforehand. Before I said it. Right, 5 more seconds. Make sure your chin is down. If you need to, have a cushion under your head. If your head's tilted backwards, then you need something to support your head. Right, bend, pull your knee in. Lengthen your leg back up again. I'll straighten my leg, but make sure that my straight leg is in line. It hasn't drifted to the outside. So this is the last stretch we're doing lying on our back, and we've just got few little movements on our front and in an all fours position. Right, bending. So hamstrings, we did that 3 times in standing. Did we do it in kneeling? And just lying on our back, so they get tight when we sit as well. Right, we're going to turn. I'd like you to turn. Just come sit back towards your heels for a few seconds. It just stretches out the sort of lower back area, lengthening through your fingertips. And then slide down onto your front. Right, I will move my mat back a bit because I'm running out of space here. Right, for some people, lying on the front isn't comfortable. That could apply to any position, but it's really, if you've got tight muscles in your lower back, you could turn onto your back at this point. I'm going to suggest that you lie flat down and reach both arms out in front of you. That's the first stretch. We're just going to hold for it'll only be for another 15 seconds or so. So whilst you're lengthening, whilst you're lying on your front, breathe deeply. It's a fantastic position to practice abdominal breathing because you've got the tactile feedback of the floor. It restricts your breathing in some ways, but it gives you that feedback. If you breathe into your tummy, you'll feel it pressing. Right, you can either stay in this flat position or slide your elbows, your hands, your arms in towards you and propping yourself up. Your elbows, I've got mine a bit wider than my shoulders. They could be below, I've just got mine a little bit wider, I find it more comfortable. Shoulders relaxed. Now you're in extension. So you've extended your spine, which means you sort of folded it backwards, and you're stretching the front of your body, the anterior sort of chain aspect of your body. Just holding. If it's not comfortable, sit back towards your heels at this point. That would be a very good alternative. Right, we've held it for about 30. If you can lower down again, stretch out again. Or if you were in sitting back, you might come down onto your front at this point. But if you're in the same position as me, slide your elbows in again, spread your hands out, your fingers are spread apart, as big a handspan as you can, and maybe pushing it up into a higher position. So the degree of extension is greater. You're increasing the extension of your spine. You're stretching more the front of your body. But I want you to have your hands out in front, not directly below where you've gone into quite an extreme degree of extension. It's not wrong, it's not bad necessarily, but I want to sort of make it as safe as possible with these extension stretch movements. Holding. Feeling tightness, feeling discomfort in your lower back, lower down, sit back. lower down and or sit back towards your heels. Right, lower down, if you haven't already, hands in right underneath your shoulders, and then we're going to push up and sit back towards your heels. Again. Breathe in deeply, just for a few seconds before we do one final stretch. Actually, that's not true. We're going to do 2 more stretches. Right, cat stretch next. So all fours, most people very familiar with this, used in lots of different exercise settings. So hands below shoulders, knees below hips approximately. Don't have your hands right into your knees or out in front of you. Flex your spine, but we're going to do it in a sort of very specific way, articulating spine, starting with the pelvis. Tuck your pelvis backwards, articulate your spine up into a C. Check your alignment, look at your hands, look at your knees. Are your thighs vertically aligned? But mostly you should be looking backwards. Hold in the position. I'm going to hold it for another 10 seconds. Slowly reverse the curve, start with your pelvis, finish with your head. I've stopped in neutral, which means I'm looking down at the floor and the curves in my back are soft. You could, as I'm doing now, go into extension, where you're lifting your head a bit and you're sticking your bottom out more, but I wouldn't go into extension if you've got tight muscles in your neck. For example, I'd limit it to between your hands. Right, we'll do it one more time. Lift up, start with your pelvis, lifting up into a C. Breathe in. Another 15 seconds, that's what we're holding it for. Fantastic stretch for the spine, for the muscles at the back of the spine. A very safe way to flex. Often flexion isn't suitable for some people, but this is a safe way to do it. Right, reversing. Tilt your pelvis forwards, work your way up your spine, sit back towards your heels, reaching out. And then the last stretch that I would like you to do is you're going to stay sat back towards your heels, and I'd like you to laterally flex your spine. So I've just changed the angle so I'm square on with the camera now. Right, I'm going to move to my left. So if you're doing a mirror image of me, it might be your right, but I'm going to go to my left. If I'm going to my left, it's my right side that I'm stretching. There's a little bit stretch on my left side, but it's mostly down my right, anywhere from my fingertips to my pelvis, but focused on the shoulder joint sort of region, some of the muscles that go from the rib cage to your upper arm bone, your humerus. But hold the position. And I've only moved a small distance. I haven't gone a quarter of a turn, which would be 90 degrees. I've gone about an eighth, if that, sort of 45 degrees-ish. Breathe in deeply, relax your neck so your head hangs heavy between your arms. Right, same stretch, opposite direction. So you're moving the same distance in the opposite direction. And now if you've moved to your, well, I've gone to my right, so I'm stretching my left. If you've gone to your left, you're stretching your right. Stretching down that side, opposite side to before, really try and lengthen. In this case, I've gone to my right, lengthening through the fingers of your left hand or your right hand if that's the case. Head hanging heavy. Return back to the centre and find a position that's comfortable for you. So for me, I'm going to form a cushion with my hands resting my forehead on my hands. Breathe in slowly and just do a quick tension check. Check the tension in your shoulders. And if you're not comfortable in this position, you can't stop tensing, you might be better lying on your back. So choose a position that you are comfortable with. There will be a variety of reasons why it might not suit you to sit back, so turn over, front, back, side, don't mind. So you're breathing deeply, you're just trying to empty your mind. Hopefully it is empty because you've been concentrating on these stretches. We did a lot of stretches. slow and deep. Alright, that is it for today. Thank you very much for joining me. I do appreciate it. I hope you got something out of the stretching routine, and you may repeat it again. Now you know what's going to happen. You might get more out of it if you do it a second, a third time even. If you liked what you saw, please like me. If you would like to subscribe, please click on the subscribe button. I will be posting more content very soon, but once again, thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you soon, hopefully. Goodbye.